And I know what time it is.
Yo, me too, bro. Yeah. Iron Sheep. Moorish Master MC. Hey, yo. What up? What up? You already know. Audio mechanics, what up? Yo, no need for a swatch watch. I read the time in the signs like prophets and seers. Put a hex on the beers. Put some wicker on Leopold and Mussolini offspring. To the ancestors, to their blood as my offering. Oshulola Punya, may I show me reflections in water like balls of crystal, walls of Venus missiles. Sun gaze and sea gods peeping from behind. I'm learning to love instead of hate and be kind, cause yes, I know. I'm thinking it's time for the wake up. Good morning as I'm yawning. Check my phone, it's only 2 a.m. Thoughts bubble like a cauldron. Feeling the tonin drip from my pineal gland. Activating my mitochondrial DNA strand. Stimulating my chakras like a camera captures. I did foresee the rapture. Stones falling in Turkey like rain from the sky. My farmer shoveling thousands of bees that died from radioactive rays from cell phone towers. As niggas babble and debate falsehood for hours. No PhD, but they call themselves doctors. We living in the time of false prophets. When we hear them speak, got me feeling awkward. It's like they speak a language I don't understand or talk with. Their tongues forth like utensils, and they stay playing with your mental.
I know what time it is.
If you hear, get your hand on my pocket in my lecture. No El Haj Malik repeat, I betcha. Sergeant of the Moorish Unified Front toward Islam. Twist your arm like a blunt, won't spark it. I like Tiger Claw, debark it. Before anyone saw, not Cain, but I'm raw. Long live Iron Sheep, slaying the weak. Rhyming about rims, spinning on their Jeep. Making a mockery of the art and hard work. Put in by the veterans, now they gotta work. Guru in a coma, rap heart attack. I'm sure a premier beat would bring the God back. Can't give it too much time in my rhyme, but I know mostly in rhyme they doing the crime. Build a ball court, a whack remedy. Living right around me is my worst enemy. I see that they look just like me. Award for hip hop when you're not an MC. Mastering the ceremony, very lonely. Rapping genuine, riding the beat ponies. Scrap the DJ and dancer like a phony. If you see me in some skinny jeans, you know they clone me. If you hear me rapping about crap, I'm Coke B. So do me like Big L or J and smoke me. I see some of my worst enemies live right around me and look just like me. I see some of my worst enemies live right around me and look just like me. I see some of my worst enemies live right around me and look just like me. I see some of my worst enemies live right around me and look just like me. If you hear I kill the assistant grand sheet, just know they're trying to get me down the Drew Ali road. Release me into the hands of Moors dirty, knowing that they conspire and wanna hurt me. Offering the dishes with glass splinters, so they'll give me a ride, leave my jacket in the winter. Try to get me through she-cast with no weakness. Don't get it twisted cause you see her speechless. I put more trust in Jupiter KTS than fake Moors with more records than JBS. Telling me they save, but just wanna be paid. Don't wanna pay dues, but be men that's made. Pushing like the travel, but don't defend. And only when backs against the wall they wanna be friend. That's why I watch no face and beg no friend. Cause only out of chambers will be there in the end. I see some of my worst enemies live right around me and look just like like me, I see. Some of my worst enemies live right around me and look just like me, I see. Some of my worst enemies live right around me and look just like me, I see. Some of my worst enemies live right around me and look just like me. So fly, no lie, so hot, I know this. Sniff your rap lines, you're so hopeless. Clones and drones, skull and boning, getting homes for a loan and rims chroming. Crap shooting, watermelon eating, mad cow, bird flu, chicken stealing, human raccoon running through daisies, selling out your race cause you're so lazy. Think you on a level when he owns your masters, and master is holding his guard and laughter. Thinking you're balling, not me you're fooling. Armchair revolutionaries cooling, hot like Mims, lynched from trees called Tims. Posing with your fat ass on covers of Maxim. Big fly eye shades under big brims. In some tight jeans you shouldn't wear, you're too slim. Can't stand your flow without me snoozing, drooling, falling asleep from your crooning. If I go to your show, it's me that's booing. Even if I may lay with my blood pooling. Go back to the essence with those old schooling. In the next realm I'm just keeping it moving. Don't need a whip, on comets I'm cruising. I'm the spirits, you need a bottle, stay boozing. I see some of my worst enemies live right around me and look just like me, I see. Some of my worst enemies live right around me and look just like me, I see. Some of my worst enemies live right around me and look just like me, I see. Some of my worst enemies live right around me and look just like me. Yeah, Kia Beats. Yo, Kia, what up? I used to be scared of pigs, judges and wigs, authority abusers, inside to the cruisers. Pull out batons, get Negroes head crack on. Stuff vest with drug notes they stole from a thug's coat. Thugs buy pitch drugs and never get caught up. Use trade tricks, these servants are made dicks. Have the front lines with dummies that know no law, to make you assume that they know no law. Smarter than a fifth grader, rights violators, oaths and badges, but acting so savage. No intellect to object or interject, civilly dead passes all get intersect. Foul balls get caught, Negro lead swinging and missing deliberate. Your head they deliver it to the front of Pharaoh, dressing like your ancestors. Study, study, study Moorish holy Quran lessons. Don't be fooled by the leaders, saying they black, taking yellow envelopes, weighing they stacks, sold you out to the lodge, and government corpses sacrifice their own to their pale guard bosses. Don't be fooled by the leaders, saying they black, taking yellow envelopes, weighing they stacks, sold you out to the lodge, and government corpses sacrifice their own to their pale guard bosses. More's been telling, never to the point of yelling, like black power, coward slaving, never rebelling, backstab, but all talk, never kill a cracker. They kill their own like overseers for slave master, kill their own mentally, not a physical death, not in full life, only simply dead is left. If you went right, you look up to a conscious sight, abandoning birthrights for a monstrous fight they're not prepared for, cause you don't study, lack of mental exercise, get minds water sluggy, save your waiting. When Drew said save yourself and learn to love, instead stop hating. Shells filled with black books calling us Moors, no need for four-legged beasts mauling us Moors. The status sets the stage like a costume ball banquet, suffocate devils with a Baphomet blanket. More my vessel, not anchor but anchor. We civilized sellouts will tell you we conquered and got everything handed down like a sofa, but Europe comes from a Moorish Queen Europa. America comes from Morocco, not Vespucci. Egypt is America in Illuminati movies. Bruce Almighty, use Morgan Freeman as God to prove black can't be, so stop living a fraud. Wake up, can't you see your own sold you out? Wake up, can't you see your own sold you out? Wake up, can't you see your own sold you out? That's what Moore's been telling you about. Don't be fooled by leaders, saying they black, taking yellow envelopes, weighing they stacks, sold you out to the lodge, and government corpses sacrifice their own to their pale guard bosses. Don't be fooled by leaders, saying they black, taking yellow envelopes, weighing they stacks, sold you out to the lodge, and government corpses sacrifice their own to their pale guard bosses. Yeah, Noble Drew Ali told y'all, you're not Negro, black, colored. So anybody selling you that, you know that they're selling y'all out. Anybody selling you that, you know that they're selling you out. Kia, what up? I'm a Moor, some call me Saracen, some Muslim. Europe had some dark age issues, I solved them. Using Moorish science, I'm stating the obvious. Rapper drone stepped up from Kush to Mali blunts. Unawakened, unconscious. Unaware Moors won't accept the fact, plus he looked up black or more. Moors the custodian of Kemetic Nubians, carrying the marvelous light, the path Negroes to Nubians, saying I'm a Moor, not colored or black. I'm a Moor, Seti or Enki, they can't change that, cause I know their hands don't extend past Allah's wisdom. I'm a Moor, no doubt a contradiction. Return to my own vine and fig tree. Nationality, a mind frame, if you're with me. Reclaim your ancestral mind and shout. Get out of here, man.
I'm a Moor, red flares, black tabs, elders of my class, not black or Indian. I repeat, I'm a Moor, indigenous to the farthest west. Say we were great, still they say we the best. Hear what I say, I'm a Moor. Yes, it's true, if not for Drew Ali, most of y'all would have still been asleep. Now you could tell them I'm Moor than you could ever wish you thought you would be. 3 centuries deep in Moorish science, I read, study, I'm a Moor.
Rope on a peg, stuck in the shore. Oceanographic device anchored to sea floors. Goldfish of China and Japan. Veil-tail variety brushing the cold water plants. Stretches of lands, jungles of where sand blows. Reptilian species and amphibians homes. Defending Drew Ali, that's my mission. To put securely in place or desired position. Ancestral mindset, not thinking like the hybrids. Can't hide from a 10, so they mess with the climate. Mess with the mind, mess with the food, get violent about more subjugation. Your black leaders are quiet, signed on to King Alfred, but they want you to riot, pushing dogma as religion and want you to buy it. Most never do it, but they want you to try it. Too many have knowledge of self on the shelves and won't apply it.
I'm a Moor, red flares, black tabs, elders of my class, not black or Indian. I repeat, I'm a Moor, indigenous to the farthest west. Say we were great, still they say we the best. Hear what I say, I'm a Moor. Yes, it's true, if not for Drew Ali, most of y'all would have still been asleep. Now you could tell them I'm Moor than you could ever wish you thought you would be. 3 centuries deep in Moorish science, I read, study, I'm a Moor.
Islam, Moors, peace and love. Tuesday is here. The usual, you already know how it goes. We gotta do what we gotta do. Get this word out to our people so they can know the truth about their nationality birthrights, so they can know the truth about their prophet, Noble Drew Ali, and so they can get back into the constitutional fold of government, because that's what this is all about. Islam, Moor.
Islam, Moor. Islam, Grand Chief.
Islam.
Islam.
So we're just gonna start off today. We'll just start off with Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, the Moorish Divine and National Movement, addressing misunderstandings of the purpose concerning. And you can get this rvbaypublications.com, the online university for all the Moors to go there and study, because if you don't study, you're going to have problems, especially with your own who's trying to put you back in slavery. You know, Moors going to be riding in a little late. Just make sure when you get in, hit that like, hit that thumbs up, because you heard Asir's going in, beating these indigenous ass right now. Have them over the knee, beating their ass right now. So, you know, Moors, we're taking that in honors to the master teacher Asir the Duke of Tears, who's been wearing feathers and saying that we're Moors before we even been on this. So honors to that Moor. And also honors to the Empress of 10,000 years doing her thing. So misunderstanding the Moorish movement. Page 29, national and divine. Many studied Moors seeking to help in the movement, but being stagnated by some of the negative and non-progressive persons holding seats of authority, have developed expanded informational approaches to help facilitate some of the social, political, and economic problems facing the nation. There were in the past, as there are in the present, intelligent, positive, and progressive Moors who are dedicated to the cause of uplifting fallen humanity. As fate would have it, to the contrary, many others are seeking to capitalize on the weaknesses and naivety which is evident among some of our people. Some sought out positions of power and authority in the Moorish movement for economic reasons only. The motives of some include deliberately hiding and nullifying the national, economic, scholastic, and political application side of the Moorish movement. Logically, without a just and proper government structure and with appropriate participatory civic activities, the proper and inherited benefits of the reclamation of the Moorish nationality and birthrights can never be properly realized and enjoyed. Thus, the people misled by such leaders would continue to lack true economic and political security. This negative proposition is why those who oppose Noble Drew Ali's universal Moorish movement, past and present, usually feign ignorance about or are non-supportive of the original civic nature and Rotarian complexion of the Moorish movement. So again, with regard to people out there who are making claims, that they're not Moors, but they're the Aboriginal and indigenous people of the land. They're Aboriginal and indigenous people of the land, but they also call themselves Indian. And they also call themselves tribes. And they also call themselves clans. And they also call themselves nations. And they also call themselves all these other things. But when you ask them what their nationality is, they can't tell you. They're going to tell you a continent, or they're going to tell you some other madness. Right? Now you're going to go look up. You're going to go look up the article, Brother Yusuf put this one on me today. Stateless Indigenous Peoples by Tilburg Law Review. Tilburg Law Review, Stateless Indigenous Peoples, the Right to a Nationality, Including Their Own, by Willem van Genugten, Professor of International Law, Tilburg University and Northwest University, South Africa. Willem van Genugten, Willem, W-I-L-L-E-M, V-A-N-G-E-N-U-G-T-E-N. Also by Anna Mejnet, A-N-N-A-M-E-I-J-K-N-E-C-T, Assistant Professor, International Law, Tilburg University, and Bas Rombouts, B-A-S-R-O-M-B-O-U-T-S, Teacher, Department of Labor, Law, and Social Policy, Tilburg University. Now, these people know that there's such a thing as stateless indigenous people. That's the same stuff we've been telling people for the past few years. The Noble Drew Ali told the Moors that nationality is the order of the day. The Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People tell you that nationality is the order of the day and you can't be deprived of your nationality. But why is it so hard for the so-called indigenous people to get down with having a nationality? And why is it when it's time for them to claim their nationality, they're telling you about adjectives and continents, and they're telling you about all these other things that have no connection to nationality whatsoever? And they would go on their little platforms and lie to people. No different than Moors lie to people and tell them that, you know, you're not Moorish American because you didn't go through the temple and talking crazy, right? For the present publication, Article 6 of the Declaration is also very relevant. Every indigenous individual has the right to a nationality. Taken together, this sounds like a convincing and safe legal system for the approximately 5,000 indigenous peoples worldwide, as well as their individual community members. If national legal systems meet these international recognized human rights standards, indigenous people can claim equal treatment, and they can do so on the basis of a solid recognition of their right to a nationality, which as such can be seen as a gateway to the recognition of a plurality of other rights. What are they saying? They're saying that don't tell me about Title 18, Section 200, whatever. Don't tell me about not paying taxes. Don't tell me about whatever because we're Indian. Don't tell me that. Nationality sets the tone for you to be able to have certain rights. No nationality, no rights. It's just that simple. Noble Ali told these people, you're not Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian. He didn't tell you that you're Indian. He didn't tell you that you're Cherokee because he was Cherokee. And he didn't say in the 101 questionnaire, my nationality is Cherokee. He said my nationality is Moorish American. Because by saying that he's Cherokee, that would be saying that he's Indian, which would be saying he's under the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And if you're under a Bureau of Indian Affairs, or if you're under some other form of European assimilation program that was created by a European to make you indigenous, you're not really indigenous, you're a ward of the people who created that program.
Yep.
Noble Ali told these Moors in the 1920s, you're not Negro, black, or colored, or Ethiopian. He was a Cherokee. He did not go around the world calling himself Timothy Drew. He did not. Why? Because there's no nationality in Timothy Drew, especially if he's an Asiatic. Especially if he's an Asiatic. Especially if he's a quote-unquote black man, but he has a European name. You definitely don't have a nationality if your name's European. Guaranteed. This is why we tell Moors, don't go out there rushing to go do some paperwork, because nationality means that you're tying yourself to a nation. And if you're going to say my name is John Franklin Bay, yeah, that's you got the Bay on there, but John Franklin, that's not Moorish. John Franklin is a European. And what we're taught is that you having a European name with Eller Bay on it means that your sovereignty is clipped. Your sovereignty is not in full life. It's in partial life. Now, guaranteed, you can get things done with that European name. You could get things done. Don't get it messed up. But even Noble Drew Ali had a free national name than Noble Drew Ali. And that name was Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali. So if he had a name called Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali that he said, you're not going to be using that name is only for the East. And he told you noble Drew Ali here, and then you're looking at Drew and you're thinking, oh, that's a European name or whatever like that. You completely have it twisted. Now, Moore did some research today. We're going to put some of that out today with regard to what he found out researching these names that Noble Drew Ali had, specifically the name Drew. Islam, Moore.
Islam. Oh, just give me one moment.
Islam. Now, while you're looking for that, I'll just read this thing right here. Some will even condemn or slander those active Moors who are working to protect the unalienable and substantive political rights of all Moorish Americans. If one studies the universal principles, reasons, proper structure, and operations of national and international governments, one can quickly surmise who among us are constitutionally inept. Measuring by principles will show where opposition and deceptions initiated against the people's rights has roots, or among whom it exists. Keep in mind, the works and efforts made toward freeing a suppressed people from usurpation, color of law, false and reconstructed history, etc., will be met with tyrannical religious dogma, brand appellatives, and designed confusion. Truth and allodial thinking directly and indirectly affects institutionalized fraud and sheds light upon the ill-gotten profits of the wardship tenure controllers. Knowledge being given to natural people weakens the usurped political powers of those thieves who have benefited from the status quo social engineering conditioning. Knowledge being given to the natural people, not sold to them, not bartered to them, not give me your arm and your leg for this. Given to them, knowledge given to them. That's why, again, we give supreme honors to rvbaypublications.com, because all the mothers do is study and then upload whatever they find to the website so you can have access. No consultation fee, no paying for a page, click a page and then you get directed to PayPal so you can make a donation and none of that. Right? And Noble Drew Ali, they are echoing the sentiments of Noble Drew Ali that Moors need to study. And what they did was set up a platform for you to go do that. And instead of study 3 times, you can go study 8 times on that website. Forget 3. If anybody been to that website, they know that that website is jam-packed, busting at the seams with information that's given to you. You don't even have to go read how much ever books that they read to get the information that's on that website. And you're gonna have people trying to tell you, don't go to that website, don't use that website. They're a fraud, they rob people, they're gonna get you locked up. Don't listen to that BS. That's a vault of information. That's an online library. That's an online library of Congress. That's an online university. That's an online well of knowledge. That's an online universe of knowledge.
Yep.
Don't play yourself by thinking that you don't have to study. Don't play yourself by thinking that you are just gonna make it out of this mad human drama that we find ourselves in every single day. We're looking around wondering what the hell is going on here. What the hell is going on in the world? Every day. If you're not looking around and thinking, what the hell is going on every day, you're probably living an illusion. To get out the illusion, knowledge given to the natural people weakens the usurped political powers of those thieves who have benefited from the status quo social engineering conditioning. And that's what we're here to do with our channel. We're here to break the spell. We're here to crack the code. We're here to wake up the sleepy people. Slaps to your face. Wake up. We're not shaking you to wake you up. We're slapping you to wake you up. Because only with slaps are you going to wake up with some type of assertiveness. You just wait for the alarm, you're going to probably push snooze and go right back to sleep. No snooze around here. When it's time to wake up, you're waking up around here. If you don't want to wake up, you stay asleep and we'll just put you in the coffin. Because we don't want sleepers. We want people eyes wide open, they're so awake, seeing and knowing without a shadow of a doubt. Give honors to this man, Noble Drew Ali, who we call the prophet. Because not only did he present information to us, but he left himself even as an example for us to go retrieve what was lost and get our senses back. Islam, Brother Yusuf.
Islam. That's just to add on because we was going over the prophet. You know, what I love doing too, because I did it before. I have looked up the prophet's appellation, Drew. And the first time I did it, I found some information. But I did it again on top of that and found even more information. Now, we know that the term Drew, if you research it, by definition, they say the term Drew means a descendant of a Druid, right? So I found this article who they referred me to a book called The Irish Origins of Civilization, Volume 2, right? By Michael Tsarion, Tsarion.
Oh man, and right. Just for the record, just make sure you go look up Michael Tsarion on other stuff because he goes in. Just make sure you go look up. You just go look up his other stuff too. Don't think that's it. This is just some little article only that he wrote. Tsarion goes in. Islam, more. Go ahead.
Islam. Right. He says the following appellations are Druidic in origin, but have long been appropriated and falsely assigned. And here goes all the names: Jew, Judaism, Israel or Israelite, Levite or Levi, Hebrew, Adonai, Yahweh, Jehovah, Zodok or Zadok, Nonium or Gaonim, or Aryanites or Melchizedek, chosen or shepherds. Now that when I saw Melchizedek, I was like, wow. Like, cause all those names I mentioned, it says are appellations of the Druidic origin. And we're talking about Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And for Melchizedek to see that in there, who we know likes to refer to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and stuff like that bugged me out to see his name there. But all of those other titles too, Israel, Hebrew, all of that is Druidic. And then it continues, it says, when and if we read these terms and others of their kind or hear them mentioned, we must think Egypt, Hyksos, and the coat of Aton. So again, because we already know where the prophet went to get the information. I'm just saying, like, everything was just correlative and shocking how, like, when you know what the prophet did, and when you put his appellation to the things that he did, you know, and you're looking at all of these terms right here, all so-called religions and stuff like that, and we know those esoteric teachings all refer back to the term or appellation Drew, which is our prophet. It says, so in light of this, we have no difficulty placing the Hebrews, or more correctly, the Iberu, I-B-A-R-U. They were the initiators, the keepers of knowledge, the wise ones, the Druidic elders of Ireland and Britain, whose colleges once existed even in the far-flung corners of the globe. All over the planet, the Druidic elders. Back to the prophet Noble Ali. Back to his appellation again. The ancient name for the land of Ireland was Hibernia, and the Irish were known as Hibernians. This is a Gaelic word, and it is also denoted those tribes that inhabited Spain. Spain's old name was Iberia. In short, the original quote-unquote Hebrews were Irish, quote-unquote. The word Hebrew most likely comes from Iberu or Iberu, I-B-A-R-U, or again it says Iberu, I-B-U-R-U, meaning the Drew tree. The word Yahweh, meaning Jehovah, comes from Yahweh or Drew. The reference in the Old Testament to Moses meeting God at the burning bush is yet one biblical corruption of Druidic tree lore and stellar mythology, which we already heard him refer. Once you hear all of these terms, it goes right back to Egypt. And then the term Hebrew was not therefore brought to the west by travelers from the east. If anything, it was more likely the eastern migrants mainly used these place names because they understood that the countries to which they went were ancient homelands of the Hebrew. Okay, the ancients knew that the terms Israelite and Hebrew referred to the high-ranking, spiritually endowed Egyptians and their ancestors. I'm going to read that part again. The ancients knew that the term Israelite and Hebrew referred to the high-ranking, spiritually endowed Egyptians and their ancestors. This is all from Michael Tsarion in the book, The Irish Origins of Civilization. Goes in on... Okay. Right here. Those who became known as Jews were, however, originally neither Israelites nor Hebrews, and were not racially Semitic. The term Hebrew, and possibly also Jew, comes from the Old Irish lore in the Irish Gaelic, Eber or Iberu, meaning Drew or tree, or men of the Drew. The Drew tree was considered very sacred to the Druids and Egyptian Magi. The Iberu or Ibri or Abri or Abari turned up in Egypt as the wise ones, quote unquote, or elders. The letter H, added as a prefix, simply meant the, and so the word Hebrew meant the Ibri. That bugged me out too, reading that. I'm trying to find information on the prophet, and it's telling me that the word Hebrew is, the letter H is a prefix for the. It really means the Ibri. I said, oh goodness, that's crazy. That's crazy. The letter H added as a prefix simply meant the. And so the word Hebrew meant the Ibri. This is the origin of the word Iberia, which signified Spain, or Hibernia, which signified Ireland. The word rabbi is a rendition of the variant of this ancient name, Iberia, or Iberia. Look at that.
Say that again, more.
This is the origin of the word Iberia, which signifies Spain, and Iberian, which signifies Ireland. The word rabbi is a rendition or variant of this ancient name, Iberia or Iberi. The Iberi were Druidic elders. The Iberi were Druidic elders who had traveled to Egypt in remote periods and had brought cellar worship there. I'm only laughing because they're talking about the prophet. It says the Iberi were the Druidic elders. The Iberi were Drew, was Noble Drew Ali, the elder, who had traveled to Egypt. It says it just like that. Who had traveled to Egypt.
Let's throw this one in there. Let's throw this one in there as well. Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 2, page 400. But it is also beyond a doubt that the dividing lines between the various sections of British people are more and more distinctly marked as one recedes from the present, and that certain attributes of body and mind have been closely associated with certain nations of dark-skinned magic workers, this connection being discernibly even yet. The historical names for these people, so far as concerns the British Isles, have been assumed to be these: the painted Moors of ante-Caesarian Britain, known by such names as Silurians, Silurians, and spoken of as Druids or magicians, whose customs caused the nickname of blue skin or green man to be applied to them by Caesar. Also, the Scots of ancient Scotia or Ireland, who seem to have left the island for Great Britain at various periods, beginning so early as the 4th century. Also, a section of Italian Romani, who, though forming part of the Latin nationality, seem still to have preserved much of their individual blood, customs, and speech, later being styled Low Latin by Latins proper. And lastly, the Cimbri, Cimbri, or Danny, or Eastmen of the 9th century, who are remembered by various British provincialists as Black Heathen, Black Dinars, or Danes, and those tribute in one particular stance was called the Tribute of the Black Army. Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 2.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mark.
No, that was just because I'm glad you did that, just in case anybody thought it was some pale-skinned people.
Yeah,
that were
the Druids. Exactly. Exactly.
Now, it continues, right? Same book, The Irish Origins of Civilization, Volume 2, by Michael Tessarion. In the Egyptian language, the word Christ denoted one who was anointed. In ancient times, there was a process or ritual known as horesis. During this rite, the male's entire body was regarded as a phallus and anointed accordingly. This practice originated from the Druids, again, to the prophet, who would anoint the trunk of a specially prepared oak tree with oil. We know a similar practice among the Egyptians, whose epiphallic obliques symbolize the ancient earth god Geb, and we find the practice among the Hindus, whose erect lingam stones symbolize the ancient god Shiva. It says, when Christianity preached Jesus as God, it preached the most familiar name of its own deity to Druidism, and it is the ancient British tongue Jesus has never assumed its Greek, Latin, or Hebrew form. what remains the pure Judaic Yisrael. So that's a Judaic term, Yisrael. Back to normal Jewelry again.
Right. Then another reference, one more.
Oh, okay.
One more. Nature knows no color line. J.A. Rogers. Page 87. White people blacken their faces, not only for the Moorish dance, but because of attraction for a dark skin. So they weren't racist why they did that. They were actually attracted to being dark. That's why they painted their faces for Dutch stuff and blackface and all that stuff. You know, it's some racism like the black guys tell you. It's not some racism like the rapper guys who say that they're indigenous or whatever, but they're mad at blackface. McRitchie says, many British peoples of fair complexion were accustomed to blacken their faces artificially, that they might better pass for Moors. To understand this fully, one must divest himself of all notions of the American dogma of color superiority. However, one finds a clear relationship in the darkening of the skin as that of the ancient Druids. With the tan, many whites now try to acquire either by sun, lotion, or electric lamp. At one of Ben Jonson's mass given at Whitehall, January 12, 1605, Queen Anne of England and her ladies blackened their faces and arms to the elbow. Moorish blood came into English royal family. Also, Elizabeth, daughter of Edward IV and mother of Henry VIII, had several Moors in her family, among these Count More and Count Maurien. There is also an Almoravit, which says Turton is distinctly Moorish. The Almoravids were conquerors of Spain in 1086 and were largely Negroes. Those people want to look at Almoravids and start talking about pale people and Muslims. Moors in French, German, Dutch, and other European families. Families on the continent also have Negroes in considerable numbers in their coats of arms. There are 50 or more variations of the word Moor in the European language. One noted Dutch family is descended from Jan the Moor, who is shown as a Negro. Jan the Moor is shown as a Negro. That's why in the lands where my descendancy is, my mother's from Trinidad, my dad's from Tobago. In Tobago, there's a street called Jan the Moor. There's a street called Jan the Moor. Why is the street called Jan the Moor on the island of Tobago? Little island in the Atlantic Ocean, and there's a street there called Jan the Moor, which is relative to quote unquote Negroes. Why do they call it Jan the Negro? Because there's no such thing as Negro. Why is it that right across the street from the Jan the Moor sign, there's, I wonder if I have that here too. Right across the street from the Jan the Moor sign, there's a, there it is. Right across the street from Jan the Moor, there's a convenience store that says Canaan. Why is Canaan in Tobago? You think these people are talking about some cursed people from the Bible that they call their jurisdiction their Canaan? Why is Canaan Food and Basket convenience store over there in Tobago? Now remember, that's South America. So if we're saying Canaanland, that's North America, and then Trinidad and Tobago, South America, and then they got because that's right next to Venezuela, which is South America. If they have a Canaan there, who are these people telling you that we're not Canaanites? Who are these people telling you that when we talk about Canaan, we're talking about some Bible story, or we're talking about some place across the Atlantic Ocean? The only way that you're going to be clear is when you study. Once you study, stuff is clear. Just like we said, Moore just looked up Drew and got all this information coming out. That's all he did. Just look up Drew, his prophet's name. That's all. Drew, and then he's studying for hours. Just because you look up Drew, you tell me something's not going on here? The more I looked up Drew, and we've been on here with references, book references, article references, whatever, proving the point. Proving the point. And other people come with their little platform and they don't show you anything. All they do is just have a screen there with a picture. Talking. For 19 hours, they're talking. 19 hours they're talking? Nobody show anything? No reference points, no nothing? Just people talking for 19 hours? And people are taking that stuff serious. A seer go on there for 4 hours, drop so much stuff, people losing their mind have to shut the thing down because he's going in so hard. They can't even take everything that's going on. But hey, you know, Noble Drawley said, if I tell you everything, you go back to sleep. If you tell you everything, you go back to sleep. That's why man knows not by being told. You better go study if you want to know the truth about your nationality and birthrights, and forget people putting you on to stuff. Because remember, we just read one page in a 400-page book. This other book is 200 pages. We read one page, not even a page. We read some lines. But we gave you where the lines came from. One of the Moors told me just this week that she got so much stuff on Amazon right now. Every day something's coming in the mail. Every day. Every day she goes in the thing, oh, there's a book in there. Oh, a book just came. Every day. Why? Because she just likes supporting Amazon? No. Because Moors had libraries. Moors had libraries because Moors read books. Moors didn't sit down there just talking with Moors all day. 19 hours, you just talking with your boys? Nobody pull out a book. You just sitting there talking. That's not no study session. That's a barbecue or blocko or something like that. It's a lot more.
And I'm glad you mentioned Moors having libraries, and that's key right now too, because I want people to do their research and type in on Google, libraries are closing down. And just click on the news section when you do it too. So when you go into Google search, type in libraries are closing down and click news. And you can see all the articles recent. I'm on it right now. It's crazy. Libraries are shutting down. I go into colleges, so-called colleges around me. I walk in, I ask where the library is at, and I'm looking, and I'm like, I got more books in my house than y'all have. Oh, everything's online. Yeah, okay. All right. So it's going to be very important for you to have libraries so you can have references, you know, because they're getting rid of the books, man. They're doing it all over again.
All over again.
At 451.
Do you think book burnings were something? You look at this online thing kicking off, and you'll see what's good. You'll see what's good. Keep playing. Keep thinking that Moors are full of BS, and all the other people, they got what's really going because they're telling you about PDFs and all that stuff. All right. All right. Keep playing. Knowledge is going to be a hot commodity very soon. Especially when that internet shuts down and you can't get them PDFs that you thought that whatever.
Yeah.
Keep playing.
Yeah. I remember. Well, I still have them. I was like a couple of years ago. I was just printing everything from RV Bay Publications because I was like, man, I'll never know when this is gonna end.
Never know.
Let me just get everything I can possibly print. I printed everything, tons of information from RV Bay Publications. Just was just printing it.
Yep. Right, and I'll show you. All right, just to stress the point. Right, just to stress the point. Right, that's what this is right here. See that corner right there? That's all the printed stuff. Right, and then that's all the printed stuff. Right, just stuff printed. Don't even know what the hell's down there. But just stuff printed, just stash it under there. Don't worry. Right? And we learned that from that. We learned that from Steve Coakley. Steve Coakley said, hey, you better be printing stuff and keeping newspaper clippings and all that stuff if you think you're going to know something out here. Because eventually, there's going to be no going online and searching anything. If you're going to be doing any searching of anything, it's going to be you having the physical copies yourself. And on top of the libraries closing, remember that majority of the stuff that you buy is going to be online, and they're going to mark those stuff up. Moors used to get law dictionaries in 2008 for 30 notes. You go check how much a law dictionary is right now.
Yep.
All my law dictionaries I got those for under 40 notes. You go check now, try to get a law dictionary.
For $1 for 1 note.
One note.
The Black Small Dictionary.
1 note. More got a law dictionary for it. And then people are not giving you references. They're telling you online.
But you better get them books, because like you said, they're going to mark the prices up. Once all them books is gone, they're going to mark all them prices up. And because when I look at that, it reminds me of the information that I read. They got a book called Lost Ancient Technology of the Ancient World or something like that. And it was talking about us Moors, our ancestors, bootlegging knowledge, selling it overseas. Because like that's how crazy it had gotten. Like people needed them. They call it just like that, bootleggers with the knowledge. I said, now that's crazy. That was insane to me. I'm like, what do you mean they were bootlegging knowledge? Like, yeah, that there people like that's when it comes down to like books. Like say we got the hardcover copies, and we're going around making prints. That's the bootleg copy. You know, now we're bootlegging, sending people that out. That's it. You know, that's what they were doing back then. That's what they were called. What we were doing with the knowledge back then. It was bugging me out. And another thing, it was a little bit off topic, but it bugged me out, was back then, to show you the competency level of the modern Europeans, Moors in so-called Italy at the time, in the Middle Ages, if you knew mathematics, and I mean simple mathematics, addition, multiplication, subtraction, division, they had an example as 27 times 14. If you knew how to do that, you were a magician. You could stand in the streets and do that multiplication problem. They would throw coins at you, fill your hat up. It was like abracadabra to these modern Europeans. 27 times 14. All you had to do, you were a magician, or you could work at one of the European colleges because you knew how to do 27 times 14 during the Middle Ages. Moors, I was bugged out. Bootlegging knowledge is about to come right back to that because we're the only ones that's going to have libraries. Nobody has a library. Who has a library? Nobody has a library. That's weird. Moors have libraries.
Yep. Only Moors have libraries. Only Moors.
They got old DVDs and crates and stuff. But ain't no libraries. Old CDs from back in the ain't no library. No library. None. And that's where it's going. Bootlegging knowledge is going to come right back to. I'm like, how? 10 hours ago. I just looked. There was an article just posted up 10 hours ago. Library shutting down. My mother came to my house. She was like, oh, I got these books for you. She came to my house. She gave me this Arabic book. The whole book is in Arabic. I don't know why she gave it, but I said, where you get these books from? Oh, the library around the street from my job has them in front of there. They're closing down. You can just take the books. I said, oh, really? You can just take the books. The library is closing down. They just left them in front of the library. You can take the books. I said, wow. You're going to start having to fill your library up.
And again, the appearance, of the library, it might seem, a little trying because it's books and, online you can put 800 books on a junk drive and all that type of stuff. Yeah, you could probably do that. You probably can do that. But I'll tell you this, when every damn computer has a virus and you can't stick that junk drive in anything, you're done for. Right? You're done for. We're telling you that it's important for Moors to stack up the library.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Have your books. Dictionaries.
You know what I mean? Dictionaries
too.
Like whatever you can get. Whatever you can get.
Yeah.
As far as literature. Treat that stuff like right now, it's not Christian book burnings. It's Christian, get books the hell out of here. Put them online. Put the books online, get rid of the books. Who knows what they're doing? It's the book shredding time right now. Yeah, book burning. They don't need to burn nothing now, they shred everything. Book shredding time. And they know exactly what they're doing. And again, we want to...
You know how big online is? They just tell you, the book's online. That's vast. That's not like you just go to the library, the book's in there. You be online looking for that book, never even pop up.
Yeah.
It's not on Google's main screen, so you ain't gonna. It's not coming up.
Like you're saying, people call it whatever, right? But like again, right? Like when we say, right, there's books right there, there's books over there, there's books there, you got books right here, bookshelf back there, over there, you got books down there, you got books over here, books down there, like books everywhere. You don't even have anywhere to put anything. You put something on it, it's going to be on a book. Not because we're messy, not because we don't know how to whatever, but what more Moors do is study. Ain't nothing else to do, really. Ain't nothing else to do. What's he gonna do? Like, what else is there to do but get knowledge? What else is there to do? Watch whatever. If I watch something, I'm gonna watch a documentary. Get knowledge. What now? What? If we watch a movie, I'm gonna have a book with a pen and taking notes because they're gonna tell me about something in this movie that I don't know about, that I'm gonna go put in Google, and then something's gonna come up for me to print out and then put that on the shelf. It's inevitable. That's just what it is. Yeah. It's not like we're trying stuff, or we're looking for fans or subscribers or whatever like that. We're just people who study. That's all. We're not nobody special. Just people who love knowledge. Why do we love knowledge? Because we're Moors and our ancestors love knowledge. Our ancestors built schools and libraries. Our ancestors built universities where people came from all around the world to study from us. Somebody just came to check me yesterday, went to the bookshelf and grabbed a book. Can I borrow this? Yeah, whatever. It's a black book, so sure, you can take that one. No problem. Bring it back whenever. Enjoy the read. Because that's what Moors did. Moors taught the world. Moors weren't sitting down here in no grass skirt scalping Europeans or whatever like that. We were teaching them. People went to our ancestors to go sit in their school for 40 years to learn. And you had to go there for 40 years. You didn't have an option like how people got today. They got an option, take a 2-year or a 3-year or a 5-year, or they can go and then leave and then come back, and you don't do none of that with our ancestors.
Right.
If you enroll, you're here for 40 years. Period. That's how we had knowledge on lock. This is why Noble Drew Ali told us to study. Man knows not by being told. Forget knowing something because you watch some guy on YouTube. If that guy on YouTube is giving you reference points for you to go study, sure, watch YouTube every day, all day. But if these guys are just talking, if they got screen share on and they're sharing some stuff, and that's it, and they're not giving you no reference points, they're sharing Etiman online and all that type of stuff, people are playing around with you. You don't need them. They need you. If they need you, then that means you're the important one. That's what Noble Drew Ali told the Moors, though. That you're the one that gave them their sovereign power, that they're using against you now. Why? Because we want it to be dumb nigger.
Yep.
We want it to be don't know ourselves, call ourselves whatever, because it doesn't matter. Disconnect from our ancient ancestral lineage as the torchbearers of civilization. Torch is light. Light is knowledge. It's just what it is. Nothing personal. And you think that the Moors who, you say this all the time, you think that the Moors who are out here and putting out information, they got information. You see some of these Moors who you never met and never did a YouTube video ever. You think Moors who put out stuff got info. Moors who have websites got info. You should see some of these Moors libraries who you never heard of.
Right.
Islam, more, you got anything else to drop right there?
Not from the book. I wanted to add on because you had said the Moor came to your house and grabbed the book for some literature. It reminded me. As soon as you said it, I was like, oh yeah. My Moabite's mom, our best friend, is a European, right? But she's a European, but for some reason she's slick with it because I be forgetting. she's real smooth. But as soon as you said what you said, I was like, oh yeah, she came twice downstairs, and because my Moabite's mom domiciles upstairs, I'm on the first floor. So she comes downstairs and Yusuf, she calls me Yusuf, European lady. She's the only one. Everybody else in here, it's like pulling teeth. But the European lady, she calls me Yusuf now. Yusuf. and asked me for a copy of the Quran. I was like, what?
European.
Like, and like immediately gave it to her too. But I never, this was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Never thought to think like, you know, oh, the Moors are the one that give out knowledge. I just gave her the book.
Right.
You know, like never thought to think, you know, like, oh yeah, we give out knowledge. Never, oh yeah, you know, Moors bringing the European back in the light. It never just was regular. But when you bring it up, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, man. Like we're still doing that. She came right downstairs. Can I get a copy of your Quran? I was like, oh wow. And she's always on it.
Those are the ones where you run her upstairs. See, and you show her all the Negroes. See, how come she wants it?
Yep.
Here's your God right here. She's not asking for no Bible. She wants to read the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Why does she want to read that for? Why? She's a European. It's no different than, not taking anything away from Moors who haven't written a book or anything like that. Maybe that's not your forte. But we're talking about the people who are claiming scholarship and all that stuff and whatever, right? They got so much information about the Moors, they never put out anything, not even a pamphlet. But they're trying to convince you about, come follow them, and they got the nation of whatever, and we're the ones that are gonna bring the Moorish whatever back. How much books you got? But then when we go to, again, reference Richard Smith, the Moor, the Mason, and the alien. The hell is he talking about? He's a European.
Mm-hmm.
What's he talking about? The Moor, the Mason, and the alien. What is he talking about? Forget Moors in America and Moors in Africa and whatever. What is he talking about? Moors, some galactic federation of Moors. What the hell is he talking about? Where is he getting info from? What do you mean galactic federation of Moors? The Moor, the Mason, and the alien. What do aliens have to do with? Forget Masons. What do aliens have to do with Moors? And we're not talking about Elian Gonzalez and whoever else. They're talking about alien.
Oh, right. We're not talking about borders.
Right? But let's just see. Let's just hit this European up quick fast. Honors to Rick Smith, because if you haven't, make sure you go YouTube search Canaanland Moors Rick Smith, and you can watch the lecture that he did for our Noble Drew Ali. They're giving supreme honors to Noble Drew Ali, some galactic honors, a European. And these indigenous people are going to talk BS about Aquarian Gospels and all that stuff. When this European is talking about galactic Moorish history, and you're going to listen to some Aboriginal indigenous guys telling you about Moors are from Morocco over there only. And they're not Moors. The Moorish legacy, page 156. Why is this European? Now, this is a European. This European knows about a Moorish legacy. No doubt whatsoever. Confident, has conviction in his truth about Moors. No backpedaling, no doubting, no and none of that. A spiritual identity first and foremost. The Moorish legacy is this planet's lamp of illumination, which is the premier definition of extraterrestrial intervention via the Temple of Solomon. As such, the Moorish legacy represents the royal inheritor of the throne of power and the entire solar system. The Moorish legacy, not the Aboriginal indigenous legacy, not the Iroquois legacy, not the Lenape legacy, not the Ottoman legacy. Not any of the other names that these people claim is who our people are legacy. The Moorish legacy represents the royal inheritor of the throne of power and the entire solar system, aka the kingdom, the royal estate. The Moorish people carry the genetic code that represents the legacy of the angels and are therefore the guardians of the Adam's covenant, a genetic and spiritual metamorphosis that transformed into the passion of the Christ. However, it should be understood that when we use terms like Moors, Moorish people, Moorish legacy, or references to Asiatic nations, we are also referring to what is best known as the true human being, the people of Hew, known as the sun-kissed people of the earth. The indigenous people would say that they're sun-kissed, right? The black guys would say that they're sun-kissed, right? The Hebrews and the whoever else is going to say that they're sun-kissed. The ancient Egyptians and the Comedians and the conscious and the whoever are going to say, oh yeah, melanin and we're from the universe and all that type of stuff, right? That's what they would say, right? So how are they not Moors? If this European, Rick Smith, is going to tell us that the true human being is the people with Hew that are known as the sun-kissed people of the earth. Whether it's square, triangle, flat, whatever, the sun-kissed people of this place. The sun-kissed people of here. If the people are sun-kissed, that means they more than likely dark-skinned. And if they're dark-skinned, like we've been telling these niggas, then they're part of the Moorish history, the Moorish nationality, the Moorish empire. And it's unavoidable. The hued man. The term hue is an ancient one used for thousands of years by various cultures as a means of elevating one's consciousness and awakening the seven seals. Both Kemetan and Grecan traditions knew the word hue as a reference to enlightenment. Sufi mystic saints of Tibet and Druids and those following the Kabbalah know the word hue as the originating sound of the universe. Once again, this should equate to the frequency that awakens the beast, the Om, within Solomon and Ammon. This ends up coming full circle with the word chroma and chakra. The seven chakras are the seven seals. The seven chakras are the seven seals. That's why Haile Selassie wears a golden fez, because he's the opener of the seven seals. And the seven seals are the seven chakras. When the seven chakras open, then you have the ray of light or the crown busting out the top of your head. The golden halo that Jesus had, Buddha had, Krishna had, all the saints who followed the prophets had the halo too, or the crown of gold, which is them reaching the seventh seal. Opening the seventh seal, opening opening the seventh seal. Nobody knew exactly what he was talking about. He knew exactly what he was doing when he did it. The seven chakras are the seven seals, each one having its own color or chroma. The word chroma refers to the intensity of the color. This equates to something mentioned earlier, tweaking the dial and tuning into a certain radio station. The power of creation is based on this. This is why the bloodline of the prophets and the Star of David have such a close connection to the sun-kissed people of earth. Hue equals chroma, equals melanin, equals frequency, equals elevation of mind, equals psychic awareness, equals mystical powers, equals illuminated prophet. Hue equals chroma, equals melanin, equals frequency, equals elevation of mind, equals psychic awareness, equals metaphysical powers, equals illuminated prophet. It is interesting to note that George Lucas hit upon this in the Star Wars mythos with the term mitochondrians, something that equates to the frequency and intensity of the metaphysical capabilities in the Jedi Knights, a symbolic reference to the Moorish legacy as guardians of the covenant. So you're telling me that Obi-Wan and Yoda and Luke and Darth Vader and all of them they're the guardians of the covenant? They're the guardians of the covenant. Which is the Moorish legacy? The Moors, also known as Maos, the cat people, and the master mariners, the Moors represent the family of man, as well as its spiritual and cosmological legacy. The phrase family of man is a direct reference to the people of Hew and therefore the sun-kissed people of earth. This falls right in line with the extraterrestrial investment in flesh and bone and the legions of light, both of which were outlined earlier. The term and designation of Moor has a multifaceted origin with lots of rich meaning in linguistics and etymology. The Moors were the master mariners of the sea, henceforth the term maritime law. It's the word itself. Moor equals Mars. Mooritime law. Master mariner. Mar, as in the name Maria, means of the sea. The mariner of the sea is the master of the world. And it's no surprise to find out that the word Moor is a cosmological variation of the word Mars, as in the planet Mars. So the term Mars of the sea carries a layered meaning, referring to the cosmic sea of time and space and its relation to the oceans of life on Earth, the polar caps of Mars, and the frozen seas of Europa, to name a few. Now, remember, this is a European. We suggest that if you're a student, you take a look into Rick Smith's book. the Moor, the Mason, and the alien. UFOteacher.com is his official site to get the book. And again, we're not just throwing out names or whatever. These are people who we know. So make sure you tell them Kudjo sent you. Make sure you let them know that Grand Sheik Kudjo sent you. Islam, war.
Islam, war. Now I got some more information on the prophet's title.
Oh, let's go, man. Let's go.
Okay, that's wrong. Now we also when you look up, when you type in the prophet's title, Drew, in the Germanic form, Drew is dragon, but it's spelled D-R-A-G-A-N. But dragon, or dragon is synonymous. It's the same thing. So Drew means dragon, but in the dictionary it says for dragon, D-R-A-G-A-N, it means strength. But we also know that there's a metaphysical or esoteric definition for the word dragon. So I want to go in on the esoteric definition of the word dragon.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Of all animals, of all the spirit animals, the dragon totem is one of the most powerful. The dragon spirit animal has a wide range of emotions and qualities. These have many different meanings in your life that this spirit guides in your totem. The most common meaning has to do with fortitude, courage, and strength. The dragon totem brings magic and balance into your life. When the dragon spirit guide comes into your life, it wants you to get in touch with your psychic nature. The dragon asks you to view the world through the window of mystery and wonder. Now, this is all coming from the prophet's title. And all of this is what he's doing. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, this is everything he's doing. Yep. When I'm reading it, I'm like, everything he's doing is in this. It continues. It said, the dragon's presence in your life calls your attention to your primordial strength. This spirit guide is the master of the earth, air, and fire. As such, the dragon is a powerful ally to have by your side. It makes your daily life amazing. Having the prophet on your side makes your life amazing.
Having Drew on your side. That's why I always have that Quran. So you should always have that pocket Quran on you.
Yeah.
Always have that pocket Quran on you.
It's in the title. Right in the title. It says the dragon spirit empowers you with potent and restorative characteristics. When the dragon spirit guide arrives into your life, you can get in touch with it by looking to your inner being. There, you'll find the spiritual dragon hidden deep within your souls. What the prophet say to study? I mean, you get done to study what? Study yourself.
Study yourself. Master
when
man.
the dragon spirit guides into your life,
Master
you can get in touch with it by looking into your inner being. That's exactly what he said. As soon as he came in, we teach you how to be yourself. First, we teach you how to be yourself. Get in tune with your inner self. Get in tune with you. The dragon, Drew. It says once you unearth it, the dragon enables you to find peace. You may have to You may have to do some spiritual preparations to achieve this goal. Look at this. It's going in right now. It's going in. Because you know we have to come out of Negro, black, and colored in order to achieve this goal. Going in. The purpose of the dragon spirit guide in your life is clear cut. It stands for a transformation that your life has to take. This is the dragon, the Drew. It stands for a transformation that your life has to take. The transformation relates to emotional and physical change. Also, it can be as simple as changing jobs or shifting houses. This change can be so drastic that it affects the core of your existence. Look at that. This change can be so drastic that it can affect the core of your existence. That's the nationality and birthright. When the prophet came, Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, when he came on the scene, he comes with the dragon spirit, which is Drew. It says he brings such a drastic, that this change can be so drastic that it can affect the core of your existence. That's your nationality. In this case, it is important that you summon the dragon within you to guide you in your tough times. That's the end of it.
Summon the dragon. Summon the dragon.
Yep. So, and that's the thing. So when they disrespecting the prophet, they disrespecting the dragon.
Yeah. That's why their life sucks.
Yep. Yep.
That's why they start talking and you think that they're bipolar and all that stuff. Because they abandoned their prophet.
All in the prophet's title. We miss it. We just, that's what I was telling you earlier, Green Sheet. He covered every corner.
Mm-hmm.
He covered everything. He covered everything. Even if you be like, oh, it was Prophet Drew Ali, that's a European name. So he did the Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? But for you, for those who study, you see the code word. You know that Drew, if you go into it, leads you into the cosmic ethers. All you got to do is just study. But because y'all want to eat, okay, that's what I was telling you earlier. I felt like he did it for the masses. All right, I'll do it because y'all want me to do it. But all you had to do is just do some research. That's not a European's title. Has nothing to do with them. Nothing to do with them.
Straight. Found the oldie but goodie. Forgot about this one right here. This will be a good one for the Moors to just put some stuff out there. Grand Shakem Herusut El, infinite power of liberty, the sovereign spirit of indigenous patriotism. What about this one? Let's see what he has to say. Quote, James Adair, Esquire, 1768. Before we can settle the Mississippi with any reasonable view of success, the government must build sufficient places of strength, both to make the colony appear respectable in the eyes of the Lenape sagamores. The sagamores? I mean the Lenape sagamores. The Lenape sagamores. Why would the Lenape be known as sagamores. Why? How come the Lenape, now remember, the Lenape, who these people claim that they are, the Lenape sagamores. Why is it so hard for our people who claim to be Aboriginal and Indigenous? Why is it so hard for them to get that this is them? Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? The 13 codes of conduct for the Marshak Moors, the Lenape sagamores, to live by. The 13 codes of conduct for the Lenape sagamores. The Lenape sagamores of this continent practice 13 codes of conduct, or virtues of the soul, which leads the soul towards a state of perfection and made one ready for the schools wherein they were to learn the sciences. The 13 virtues are: a true sagamore is honorable, a true sagamore is loyal, a true sagamore is helpful, a true sagamore is affable, a true sagamore is courteous, a true sagamore is kind, a true sagamore is respectful, a true sagamore is cheerful, a true sagamore is conservative, a true sagamore is brave, a true sagamore is clean, a true sagamore is reverent, a true sagamore is always prepared. Carver's Travels, quote from Carver's Travels. In the long ago, the Moors deemed lying and stealing among the most despicable acts. The greatest of insults was to accuse a Moor of either of the two, because both lying and stealing entails a loss of character, and we would hold no relations with known liars and thieves. This is because the honor and well-being of our nation was and is the first and most predominant emotions of our hearts, and these emotions proceed in a great measure of all of our virtues. It is because of these emotions that we would brave every danger, endure the most exquisite torments, and expire triumphing in our fearlessness and moral strength, not as a personal qualification, but as a national characteristic. The greatest of insults was to accuse a Moor of either of the two, lying and stealing, because both entails a loss of character. Both entails a loss of character. So a lot of these Moors have lost their self by being out here lying and stealing under the guise of their Moors. And again, that was Infinite Power of Liberty by Grand Shekem Herusut El. There's just too much to even escape. You can't escape. You cannot escape. Los Indios, a Native American War Manual by Ricardo Ignacio. And then look, he has the serpent, the winged serpent on the cover, going back to Drew and the dragon and the wings being enlightenment, which represent the sun disk, which is really ancient Egyptian culture. And then there goes the infinity symbol of the tail, which is really our sciences. Los Indios. In these schools, known as Indian boarding schools, Native American children were not only forced to assimilate, but also abused, molested, raped, tortured, starved, and murdered by nuns, priests, and teachers. Many people today, including historians, teach that Christopher Columbus labeled us Indians by mistake. The story goes that he was searching for India, but became lost and landed in the Americas instead. And that's why he called us Indians or Indios. By that story, but that story is inaccurate. Columbus was never searching for India. The truth is, some Europeans, like the Vikings, had already set foot in the Americas before Columbus did. Africans and Asians had been there too, sometimes to fight, but other times to share ideas about food, art, weapons, and other valuable goods. There are obvious similarities among these goods from throughout the world, and many of these artifacts from the Americas predate the 1400s. One such idea that was obviously shared has to do with architecture. Ancient pyramids can be found in Central and South America, proving that people from other continents traveled and migrated there long before Columbus. The Roman Empire's general waged war against many European kings in his attempt to conquer all of Europe. He also headed to North Africa to conquer and build bases in as many regions as possible, making the Romans believe that they were undefeatable. In the process, he depleted Europe's natural resources, and many parts of Europe were in ruins due to the wars, including the many civil wars inside the empire itself. As a result, Romans practically wiped themselves out, which created the perfect opportunity for the Muslim Moors to rise up and move in on Europe. The Moorish colonization of parts of Europe, including Sicily, Spain, and Portugal, lasted from 711 to 1492. Although Europeans were very displeased by the Moors' arrival, especially the rise of Moorish empires in Europe, the Europeans benefited greatly by the Moors' highly advanced science, mathematics, astronomy, art, and culture. However, like the Romans, the Moors began to wage war against each other. Many European Christians waged war against the Muslims, attempting to throw them out of Christian territories, which eventually led to a decrease in the Moors' population and power. The Moors were just settling in Granada when the hands of the Spaniards' Catholic monarchs, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, their reign finally came to an end in 1492. This was known as the Fall of Granada, or the Conquest of Granada. After Christian Europeans revolted and successfully overthrew the Muslims, most of the Spaniards were in ruins and very few resources with which to rebuild their empires. And so in that same year, 1492, Isabella began searching for soldiers willing to travel to other lands to look for slaves and resources. The wars in Europe had gone on for many years, and thousands of Spanish soldiers who survived were eventually incarcerated and left to rot in prison due to the many crimes they committed, particularly rape and murder. The experience of war left many soldiers with severe mental issues, including cannibalism, and some even thought to be rabid. Columbus was one of these soldiers who begged Queen Isabella for supplies and a ship to sail to the Americas on her behalf. The resources and slaves he brought back would be used to rebuild her kingdom. Isabella granted Columbus his wish. However, instead of giving him normal soldiers, she released the rapists, cannibalistic murderers, and mentally ill soldiers and gave them to Columbus for his journey to prospect the Americas. After Isabella realized how rich the Americas were, the plan became to build a new Spain, which was why many regions were labeled with names like New Spain, Hispaniola, and others that are Spanish or related to Spain. The plan was to build new empires in these lands for the cultivation of more power, more land, more slaves, and more resources, and eventually to take over the world, using Christianity as a tool to force submission by all people they would conquer and colonize. Columbus never planned to travel to India, but at the same time wasn't even known as India, but as Bharatha Varsha. It didn't become India until the British colonized it in the 1700s. Therefore, it is impossible that Columbus was searching for an India that didn't exist yet. After Columbus arrived in the Americas, the indigenous inhabitants became known in Spanish as Los Indios, the implication being that they didn't believe in the Christian God. Europeans felt they had permission from their God to conquer any tribe, village, or people as long as it was done in the name of Christ. It was important for me to use this terminology as the title for my note because many Native Americans today use the term Indians or Indios to identify themselves. Los Indios eventually became Indios over time. Schools and historians falsely teach that Columbus landed in America by mistake. It was no mistake. Columbus wasn't a dummy. A dummy can't sail the deep, long oceans and survive for years in a ship filled with mentally ill soldiers who were previously imprisoned for rape, murder, and cannibalism. Columbus was a smart leader who desired to help his country and his people rise again. The cost would be the ruin, enslavement, and genocide of others. Such an undertaking wouldn't be very difficult with the help of soldiers who were rabid and thirsty for blood, especially on the shores of the Americas, where the indigenous people were mostly very friendly, peaceful, and giving. When Columbus's fleet arrived on the shores where the Arawak people lived, they didn't arrive in an intact ship. Their ship was wrecked. It was washed in on the waves. They barely made it to the land alive. Their food supply had long been depleted. They had spent several years at sea drinking their own urine and eating their dead comrades' corpses. While this practice was necessary for their survival, it spread illness. If the Arawak people hadn't come to the aid of the ill, helpless European soldiers, Columbus would be a nobody today. Just another soldier who tried to reach a new land in search of gold, resources, and slaves. Now you know the truth, and I hope the truth will set you free from the chains of the religions, false identities, and ideals of the oppressive white man. I hope it will equip you to pursue a future where we no longer have to live by and think like our colonizers and become only what they say we can be. Because if we continue to allow them to rule over us, then we will exist only to serve them. Excerpt from Los Indios. It's a pretty intense read.
Oh, yeah.
Quite intense. Quite intense.
I didn't know he had that whole story on there.
Oh, yeah.
Like that together. You know what I mean? He had it all together.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
There's no from the fall of Granada to Los Indios, man, you know. Where that ain't nope.
No such thing as Indian.
You know?
So anybody saying Indian out there, know that they don't know the history. Know that they don't know the history.
And now you know the truth.
Yeah. Right, another excerpt. This is from chapter 2. The days of self-hate are over. So this is him having a conversation with his aunt that he just connected with after 15 years or something. This is the aunt talking. See, that's the problem. We're not just environmentally colonized, but mentally colonized. We've adopted the religions of the Europeans who destroyed our beliefs. Heaven, hell, God, angels, those are Jewish ideas that were eventually adopted and created by Europeans. The Europeans came here and shoved their bullshit on us by force. So you aren't Catholic, Auntie? Catholics are the Spanish colonizers who arrived here and raped our people. They obeyed the God of their religious guidebook as they butchered our ancestors. And now here we are thanking their God. Thanking their God for what? For allowing those pale-faced demons to destroy our civilizations, obliterate our education, our books, and rape our indigenous women? For enslaving our children, wiping out hundreds of millions of natives in all parts of the Americas? A rhetorical question I knew, but she spoke with intensity that I felt the desperation in her words overwhelm me. Do you know how many millions of mothers, elders, and children that is? Yet, they tell us to get over it. Meanwhile, praising the white Jesus for being survivors of a Holocaust that wasn't even 2% as horrific and damaging as one of our peoples faced. Our people endured the largest Holocaust in the history of humanity, shrinking our population, preventing us from ever rising again, and preventing us from ever building our own civilizations again. They even built borders across our lands, separating our people from each other, calling us foreigners and wetbacks, and treating us like second-class citizens on our own land. Should I be thankful for that? The same fire that my grandfather spoke with was embodied in this woman. So you're against God, Auntie? How can I be against something that doesn't exist? You're saying God doesn't exist? A perfect God, a perfect God that claims to love all of his children equally, yet sends them to the eternal damnation if they behave imperfectly, the way that he created them to behave in the first place? Please, nephew, they can fool most people, but not me. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see through the bullshit. It only takes a bit of logic, she replied, pointing at her head. She went on to explain that the Jewish people, who were in control of thousands of years ago, created a very misogynistic, sexist, and hateful God, and then forced the people to believe and worship him or die. It took no more than a few decades to convince the people that this God was real. It was this lie that paved the way for the wealthy to gain control over the entire nation by putting fear in their hearts, teaching them to either obey or else be tortured to death, and telling the people that they would be punished for an eternity for their wrongdoings. They eventually got the people to kneel and serve this God. Here we have cowardly, yet very intelligent, wealthy men who owned everything but told the people it is easier for a camel to enter the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven. Extremely wealthy people are teaching this. Are we so stupid? How did the wealthy manage to teach the poor that if they became rich, then they had no chance of making it to heaven? It began to make sense. Wealthy people taught the poor that it was God's rule that if you were struck, you should turn the other cheek. This meant that if the wealthy people beat down the poor, then the poor should turn the other cheek. Otherwise, they would be punished for an eternity in the afterlife. How did a group of violent people manage to teach an entire civilization to be afraid of defending themselves? Through fear. And what did people of that era fear? Everlasting damnation. Jewish dummies did not write those books. Warlords who planned to conquer and control the world forever wrote those books. When the Romans, who were attempting to conquer the world as well, came across those books, the Roman general, who was a pagan, came to admire their teachings because he saw how the Jews were so able to easily control their population with them. The Roman general adopted these teachings and had them rewritten to fit the Romans' agenda and to depict their God as a pale face like themselves. I remained silent as I tried to process all this information, which made perfect sense. I found it hard to accept the fact that I had been Catholic my whole life. In a moment's time, my entire belief system had been debunked. Now we have these demented white fools holding their own rewritten version of those books, preaching out of churches, teaching our people to turn the other cheek when they strike us and remain poor while they remain wealthy and in control of everything. She continued, this is what our people need to learn in order to rise from the ashes, but they won't do it. You know why? Why, I asked, intimidated by her passion, yet yearning for her knowledge. Fear. These Judeo-based dogmas have been deeply ingrained in our people for hundreds of years, and everything we used to know and believe in has been burned down by Christian priests since the 1400s. Even today, they send anthropologists to investigate our people in villages, just to further misplace them by grabbing the lifestyles, traditions, cultures, and beliefs of indigenous people, and then playing the guessing game, misinterpreting everything, writing it down, then publishing their silly books. Then they claim to be teaching us what and who we are, and they do this to demonize and marginalize us more to make us look primitive, which in turn automatically makes Europeans look more advanced than us. This subliminally and subconsciously makes us feel ashamed of who we are, causing us to desire to be like the so-called advanced white people, but they aren't advanced whatsoever. What they did was take all of our sciences, our advanced mathematics, our thousands of years of work in philosophy, astronomy, and agriculture, and then claim it as theirs. Then they destroyed the evidence of all the work we had ever done, leaving us with nothing. leaving us in poverty. They used everything they ever stole from us, passed it off as if they were the ones who done all the work. That's why and how we indigenous people seem to be primitive. We weren't the only ones they stole from. They stole from the Asians, from the Egyptians, and from most Africans. For many years, these people have been culture thieves. And once they steal the culture from every non-white, then they destroy the evidence of these people's accomplishments. By leaving us nothing but a blank slate, they've made it seem to the rest of the world that we never made any important contributions to humanity's advancement. They even take our religions, rewrite them, and use them against us. They do all this just to make sure we never find out what our original beliefs were. If we don't have a connection to our ancestors, then we have no choice but to adopt our oppressors' watered-down versions, which they have recreated in a way that most benefits whites while oppressing non-whites. So we don't defend ourselves out of fear of everlasting damnation. The result is the whites are getting wealthier while they teach us to be economically poor or else go to hell. And that's why they've built a goddamn church on every corner of every street, in every city, in every state, in every country across the whole damn continent. They are making sure we adopt these beliefs one way or another. Sadly, our people are adopting these beliefs. All over the continent, our people practice the same religions and worship the same God Europeans used. Look at the conditions we live in now. Look at our homeland. It has been ruined along with the people in it, ever since we were forced to emulate the white man and his harmful culture. Los Indios.
Yeah. That's an incredible, that was just incredible.
Los Indios. Going in. They're definitely going in.
And his aunt was just
Yeah.
kind of like, she was on Blog Talk Radio.
Yeah. She was definitely on Blog Talk. She was definitely on Blog Talk Radio. Going in.
Like, wait a minute. That sounds like the mothers.
Yeah. Yep. That's how the mothers sound, just like that. Killing it. Killing it. Yeah, very passionate.
Yeah, I didn't see that, and that's the thing, right? Back to that. The online version doesn't give it its justice.
Yeah. Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, because the online version, they're going to take pages out and they're going to alter and edit and whatever else that they got to do.
Yeah.
Right. And then just put this.
I had no idea all of that was in there.
Yeah.
They went in. I just got that little part.
They went in.
No, he went all the way in.
Yep. And Moore sent me a sign that he passed today of a housing complex called Foxmore. And then they got the evergreen tree on it as well. Why would they put the evergreen tree on this subdivision called Foxmore? Think these people don't know what's up? They just put an evergreen tree there just because they're bored, right? Just because they're bored. So to close out, I know it's a lot of reading today, but you know, it is what it is.
Reference points, though.
Reference points. So I'm gonna get this last 10 minutes in, and we're gonna read from the A+ Masters of Arts candidate, Department of Sociology, York University, that my sister wrote to get her degree, which she graduated. Now she's university teacher. The significance of racial and ethnic consciousness to anti-racist resistance, a case study on the Moorish Science Temple of America. The significance of racial and ethnic consciousness to anti-racist resistance, a case study on the Moorish Science Temple of America. We'll get past the introduction and we'll go to Druali and the Moors. Noble Druali carried on Garvey's message by declaring that so-called Negroes possessed a distinctive nationality. He declared that they were not what their oppressors claimed them to be, but were in fact Moorish Americans, descendant from the ancient Moabites. Any thorough review of history of near Asian lands would reveal such places as Canaan and Moab, modern-day Morocco, extensions of what we now call the African continent. Distorted history has attempted to deny the Africanity of those known throughout history as Moors in the interest of Eurocentrism's pigmentocratic status quo, which implies that one's political power and social worth are directly related to the lightness in their complexion. The same deception was used by European Americans during and after slavery to justify their abuse and oppression of quote-unquote blacks. The teachings of the MSTA stress the importance of Black Americans creating an identity separate from the European constructs of Blackness that had specifically to do with being both Black and American, particularly if one was also from the South. Noble Druali believed that if Black Americans embraced their true Moorish nationality, as he termed it, the U.S. government under which they lived and all other nations would respect them and could regard them as a dignified people with a history that merited respect. In 1790, there was one such documented instance of so-called Negroes and slaves using their Moorish nationality to gain their freedom. The Sundry Free Moors Act of 1790 was the legislation passed by the House in the South Carolina after 4 African couples who were brought to America and enslaved argued that they were in fact subjects of the prince in alliance with the U.S. under their petition. Chapter 1, Section 4 of the Negro Act states, the term Negro is confined to slave Africans and their descendants. It does not embrace the free inhabitants of Africa, such as Egyptians, Moors, or Negro Asiatics, such as Lascars. The petitions argued that under their Moorish nationality, they may not be considered as subject to the law of this state, called the Negro Law. But if they should unfortunately be guilty of any crime or misdemeanor against the laws of the land, that they may have a just trial by a lawful jury. Their authentic designation as Moors exempted them from being slaves, along with the punishment of oppressive laws that constrained the lives of Negroes. They were therefore able to move about the country as free men with their own distinct culture and religion. Although their presence in the U.S. is often disregarded and ignored, evidence of the alliance between Morocco and the U.S. hides in plain sight. The history of the Moors' existence, almost 200 years prior to Noble Druali, is represented by the crescent moon and a palm tree on the South Carolina flag. It has proven difficult to connect Noble Druali to his Moorish predecessors, since much of his early life is shrouded in mystery. We do know that he was born to an ex-slave father and a mother who was Cherokee and Moorish. Ali was orphaned as a child and spent time studying in Egypt as a teenager. Even with limited biographical information on Druali, We can learn much about the man and his movement from the ways he resisted the dominant political and social rhetoric of Black worthlessness and inferiority. Noble Drew openly encouraged so-called Negroes in America to reject all European practices that were used to control them as slaves. He believed that if they were to resist Christianity, refrain from using slave names, and proclaim their Moorish nationality, it would take them out of the subordinate position that they were put in. Rejecting names and embracing nobility. In the classic film Roots, there is a powerful scene where Kunta Kinte is being publicly whipped for rejecting the name Toby, so graciously given to him by his master. As Kunta is being whipped, the overseer repeatedly asks, "What is your name?" And every time he replies, "Kunta Kinte," after dozens of lashes, Kunta painfully squeezes out the name Toby. This example is a harsh reminder of how the identity of African enslaved by Europeans was literally beaten out of them. The masters reassigned new names to enslaved Africans to reinforce their ownership over them. In the Moorish Science Temple of America, congregants are encouraged to reject and release their slave names and take on titles that signify their nobility and high character. The 5 titles used by the MSTA are El, Bey, Ali, Al, and Dey. According to the MSTA teachings, El represents the lawmakers and the lawgivers. Bey are the enforcers. Ali is a title reserved for those who are or who have reached a master degree in their line of studies. Al is also reserved for obtainment by degrees in the sciences, mathematical, geometric, psychological, etc. And Dey is meant for and reserved for the same in degrees of astrological, cosmological, and other sciences. None of these titles are derogative or inferior in any way, which challenge the social and political discourses of white supremacy. These titles presume a heightened level of intelligence, which undermine the white European perspective that Negroes were unintelligent. Name change is a practice significant to promoting ethnic and racial consciousness with religious organizations because it signifies that members have undergone a religious conversion to become new persons. Names were used by the MSTA as a way to further identify themselves as Moors. Under Moorish American identity, they would be exempted from those statutes used to further oppress so-called Negroes after the Civil War. The MSTA counteracted racism by rejecting names and racial categories which placed them at a political and economic disadvantage. Drew taught congregants that they were not Negroes. This was only a label that white people had placed upon them to make discrimination easier. The MSTA taught Moorish nobility during a time where people of color were conditioned to believe that they were ugly and unworthy of nice things. It was propagated in popular newspapers that Black Americans possessed the advantage of being nearer to the savage stage of man's development, and hence more willing to live in shabbier houses, eat meager food, wear dirtier clothes than men will do among the living standards of white civilization are maintained. To promote a higher character and distance themselves from Blacks, Ali encouraged his male members to wear fezzes and sport beards. In addition, Black worthlessness and inferiority was rejected by adopting new styles of clothing which emphasized their ancient nobility. Europeans were confused by the image of Blackness displayed by members of the MSTA. Their expensive-looking silks and brocade clothing did not fit the dominant discourse of so-called Negro poverty and filth. Their ethnic consciousness as Moors and the way they presented this consciousness in their style of dress rejected and resisted the racist order of larger culture. Rejecting denationalization. The denial of citizenship for blacks meant the denial of civil rights and liberties. Their emancipated slave status had awarded them no further recognition or social respect. Noble Drew Ali used the Moroccan-American Treaty of Peace and Friendship as the foundation for a recognizable nationality for his congregants. This treaty validated Noble Drew Ali's idea of nationhood and gave the MSTA the right to be both Moorish and American without contradiction. The U.S. denying citizenship to Negroes was not an issue for the Moors because they identified as Moorish American. Drew Ali's minor rhetoric challenged dominant political and social discourses and constructed a narrative of Black worthlessness that emphasized Black Americans' ill-suited character for citizenship. To Drew Ali, declaring one's nationality as a Moorish American was the culmination of all his teachings. He would tell his followers, if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality. In the MSTA, nationality was everything. You could not be a Moor without one. And just for the record, we'll throw out some of the reference points. Noble Drew Ali, Plenipotentiaries and the Negro Black Colored Addiction by KS Kudjo ROL. A most disagreeable mirror, race consciousness as a double standard by L. Balfour. Ethnic and racial consciousness, M.P. Banton. Moorish Science Temple of America, a study exploring the foundations of African American Islamic thought and culture, P.H. Easterling. The Facts of Blackness, Post-Colonial Studies, Franz Fanon. 1970 interview, James Baldwin. African American Religions, S. Johnson. The Statutes at Large of South Carolina, D.J. McCord. Forgotten Fruit of the City, Chicago and the Moorish Science Temple of America, D. Mubashir. Respectability and Representation, the Moorish Science Temple, Morocco, and Black Public Culture in the 1920s, Susan Nance. Nationality Identification Cards, rvbaypublications.com. Full Citizenship for the Negro American, A Sociological Problem, T. Parsons. Othello's Children in the New World, Moorish History and Identity in the African American Experience, Jose Pimienta Bay. And Drew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple of America, A Minor Rhetoric of Black Nationalism, S. J. Varda. Now, if we can...
That was perfectly written too, by the way, Grand Sheet.
Yep.
It's long.
If we could have my sister's dissertation that she got an A+ on in order to get her degree, talking about Noble Drew Ali, Moorish Science Temple, Moorish Americans, El Bede Al Ali, breaking all that down, breaking down nationality cards, breaking down denationalization versus nationalization, breaking down why we're not black and sundry free Moors and whatever else, then there's no need for us to have any doubt as to what this is. Because again, she got A+ for the paper. If she got A+ for the paper, it's probably something to this. Guaranteed there's something to this if she got A+ on the paper. So with that, we want to remind the Moors, don't forget it's Tuesday. So since it's Tuesday, we have our online session tonight with the mothers. And again, 319-527-6751. 319-527-6751, 425-569-5201. 425-569-5201. blogtalkradio.com, MHHS, Eyes Wide Open, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you call in early so you can, get in there, because show fills up fast. Show fills up quite fast. Honors to all the Moors, wherever you're at. Peace and love to all. Brother Yusuf, got any closeouts?
Yeah, Islam, Grand Sheik. Islam to the Moors in the chat. Give thanks for the Canaanland Moors in their platform. And honors to the Prophet.
Don't forget, if you want to get some Grand Sheik Kudjo books, you can go to califamediacom and you can get that going there. If you want to get some of this music, you can go to willofalah.com and get your downloads over there. And don't forget, just check out Canaanland Moors. We're out here putting that information out. And as well, this Sunday, we're not going to have any class this Sunday. We're having our first annual feast at the temple. Open door, Moors pass through, get fat. We're going to have some food catered. New Moors, feel free to come by, build with the Moors, because you already know how we do. We like to get fat sometimes and not do anything, just chill. So we'll be chilling this Sunday, but we'll definitely have something to upload for the Moors, even if it's just running the live, just so Moors could see Moors happy, because you already know Drew Ali told the Moors, when the Moors are happy, he's happy. Peace and love to all the Moors, Islam, and to all, a good night. We'll give you some closeout.
Islam to the mothers.
And Islam to all the mothers, and honors to the What up, Operation Rapper Inquisition, moving through the fakeness, hip-hop matrix vision. Back again, in these bars, this is my prison. Walls on these pages with pen shanks I'm scribbling. No visits, lines on paper, concrete walls. My margin is my showers and my washing stalls. End of the page is when I make parole. Force me to execute rappers, then throw me in the hole. So much so, the MC, not confined. The elements of hip-hop today are not combined. Almost seeing the other side, gotta stay focused. Just gotta let that phone ring. Don't lose focus. They can't try to hocus pocus. Send rapping jokers with handbags, Gucci purses and chokers. Jeans, wrestler, spandex type. Turning youths to robots. If you drink a Sprite, that's not what I say. That's what they do. Use rappers to sell you sneakers and Mountain Dew. Flowing like a fountain do. When you turn the lever, setting the bar for conscious MCs and rapping believers. Trapped with me in these bars, rappers begging for seizures. Hanging rappers with the strongest lines, squirm like leeches. Sentenced to the underground, no one hears your screams. Left right for the math for these black and yellow dreams. What happened to the MCs? Ask yourself. What happened to the DJ? Ask yourself. What happened to the rapper? Ask yourself. What happened to the dancer? Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself.
Check it. Let's open the book of hip hop and make advances. My supreme knowledge of alchemical sciences only enhances my ability to drop metaphysical answers. When asked about the MC, the DJ, the graph for the dancers, earth, air, fire, water, all being born to hip hop. Study hard to get that. Forget rap, cause it's not. The transformation from lead to go from man to God can be achieved through hip hop. It's art, the planet's ours. The colors and tones and archetypes will spark the light. Keep your third eye, a bird's eye, restore the loss of sight. You already lost the fight whenever I come across the mic, because you're dealing with God and you can never exhaust the light. We're making the shift from hip hop to God house, the return of the ancient ones, and we coming non-stop. So when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So I'm here, straight from the boogie down, so have no fear.
What happened to the MCs? Ask yourself. What happened to the DJ? Ask yourself. What happened to the rapper? Ask yourself. What happened to the dancer? Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself. It's only in the underground, unseen but heard. Oracles, words, and metaphoric slurs, riding on the smooth and savage beat tones. Paparazzi taking pictures, talking on the phone. Pictures tell 1,000 words, but drivers on camera, reading or sleeping while driving on camera. You might even be hammered. It's not even lunch yet. Didn't have breakfast, clock not even punch yet. Send that to the news and post on YouTube. Hit some people get, are in the thousands, not few. Charge $1, make $1 million. Set up a website and PayPal, make a killing. Right side, that's all just hype. I'm on the streets bringing youth from darkness to light. I'm in their courts, not playing ball, but schooling them crossover thoughts. It's not training camp like I'm doing sports. Season's been started. Sam's going shoot shadow targets. Got them thinking it's the shoes when they're the market. Got them thinking it's the booze and blunts you smoke. Got them thinking magazine monthly hip hop quotes have the best lines. They can't test time. Rappers get awards for MC best albums and best rhymes. I was the brush carrier with fades and waves. Didn't know that hairstyle was from the ancient days. Me doing the work for the Amazon matriarchal. Rapping hip hop today, so patriarchal. Female MCs on the mic, I probably know 6. The game is like church and demigods, no woman on pulpits. We have to say what we must sow some seeds, so we can grow strong trees with the bedsheet leaves. Deadbeat seas, modes navigate with flows. I flow on papyrus beat boats as I write these scrolls. Bringing back the hip hop's constitutional fold. Even mics can't escape, catch a bruise when I hold. My paper trails leave them, smooth when I hold. Apply more science, never get cool when I flow. Cushion pen, not the cush when you see I blow. Flow for right years when my 3 eyes glow. And head and rapper in position. Pen mighty and the swords not even on ink we missing. What happened to the MCs? Ask yourself. What happened to the DJ? Ask yourself. What happened to the rapper? Ask yourself. What happened to the dancer? Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself. With a chain on your brain, with niggas no playing. King have a plan, vaporized, no bodies laying. Got nations reclaiming republics back. Constitution enforcing on demo acts colored. Can't be a verse, I'm a more first. Will claim to be ham and catch that pork curse. Following black power that lost debates. Slap doc for having a lawyer, set the record straight. The Moors are back, burn your Nubian race. Pushing Malachi York with no Ellis fake. Allah's temple of Islam, perpetrate the fraud. Push true to the back, uplifting fraud. Claiming to be Lord, get thrown overboard. Dirty Moors talk, I walk cause y'all overboard. Got sisters heads under, not over swords. Camera clutch minds with hope and thoughts. Iron sheep knowing, all niggas believing. Candyman was the master, not Steven. Odds aren't in their favor and not even. Rappers think the MCs are not even. A lot of you folks are conscious jokes. Moors with CC, the Hague and retiring popes. Send me a message, I don't reply to pokes. I live the prophet lessons, I don't parrot his quotes. Slavery been overshadowed, still wearing the yokes. No gold or silver or land is back in the notes. IRS, CRA, demand you to pay tax with no conscience when they're not Congress. Falling for bomb threats and other nonsense like rappers' lives. The exercise only onsets. This is physicist, not Genesis. 4 quadrants around 7 all elements. This is physicist, not Genesis. Moorish MC, magnetic resonance. This is physicist, not Genesis. My imagination lights born Pegasus. This is physicist, not Genesis. Moorish MC of great eminence. Papers and cars can't save minds enslaved. Just do like Cassius Clay. Correct your names like Yasin and Spraga. Adopt, elevate, grow up, stop. God and put the God away. Prophet Juali said it all. The most I can say you won't understand. Ask Victoria Monet, Ash 9. He said he thought like the colonists. So Noble Juali started dropping that consciousness, which means he knew he was no nigga and saw things clearer when he wiped off his mirror. I spit almorical rhymes. Who's iller? Genuine without the Miller draft. Who's chiller? Keys drop, but some put locks to open them. Waiting on walkers on water and floating, man. Time to get awakened. No sleeping or waiting. Acting like it's sedated for operations. Push Kush, got mine shrinking, not dilating. Hear rappers' tracks, I get sick like smelling bacon. If I'm shopping, I'm copping broccoli. Being a more saying you're black is a mockery. No death threats or suits will be stopping me. Sight beyond sight, no obstacles blocking me. Stand strong and firm, nothing propping me. Iron sheet, hip-hop pills, stop popping me. This is physicist, not Genesis. 4 quadrants around 7 all elements. This is physicist, not Genesis. Moorish MC, magnetic resonance. This is physicist, not Genesis. My imagination lights born Pegasus. This is physicist, not Genesis. Moorish MC of great eminence. I'm on the ship scene. Welcome to the board meeting. Year round, 4 seasons. I'm getting it for a reason. So let's throw the gods away. No idol worship consecrated. There's something wrong when the created God is not your favorite in your congregation. I'll never be a Christian more. Propagating the faith, you could be a victim of swords. I walk over the water, emotional tyranny. You say to me it's for the spreading of the YouTube parodies. Apparently, we have to draw from scratch to see our artwork. Let's get it together, guys. Try the image and sharpen. Where the image of our people with businesses and commerce. Muhammad and our face and duality begins to conquer. It's the Kappa, the weekly Chicago is decided. Oversized temple of American business license. The heat has to leave, so I fill up the water for him for my day. With my music playing, oh, the hunger. Praise the Father God, Allah, Yahweh, Elohim. Broken the yoke of our burden, and we're bound to get closer to the disclosure of the truth. For locking in your noses of the devils that had cultures to play the game with exposure. I'm with the harmonies and like a mystical encounter. And my person, what they want with the contract on the counter. I'm also on the West Territories, no brother man's children with the horse again. And overship physicists, not Genesis. 4 quadrants around 7 all elements. This is physicist, not Genesis. Moorish MC, magnetic resonance. This is physicist, not Genesis. My imagination lights born Pegasus. This is physicist, not Genesis. Moorish MC of great eminence. Who my nemesis? What is evidence that they're trying to erase all of the remnants of my DNA? Can't trace my inheritance back to my Moorish ancestors who were prevalent on my premises. To this residence, puppets on strings. We call them the surrogates. Kiss the ring of a prince. Setting precedence. Kiss the ring. I'm a prince. I'm setting precedence. Paying homage to a king. Never knows heaven said sideline. Watch us do a thing. No type of hesitance. We the ancients that descend. Don't care about being relevant. And never since the genes of ISIS, authority from the womb. Always been priceless, so it's fitting that this tunes carved as ISIS, most waiting on the tomb to make things righteous. I'm aligning with the moon, planning my light quest. Germanian from June, made in her likeness. I was fed with a spoon before I could bite you. Yeah, you thought you were in tune. Your mind ain't right yet. Called you in the room, waiting on flight. That out the way, make room. This is our mic check. Taking the fumes, you might even like it. This is physicist, not Genesis. 4 quadrants around 7 all elements. This is physicist, not Genesis. Moorish MC, magnetic resonance. This is physicist, not Genesis. My imagination lights born Pegasus. This is physicist, not Genesis. Moorish MC of great eminence.